Folks, welcome to this very special edition Voxcast, all about the big FAQ number 2.
Yeah, 2018.
1, 2.
Yeah.
So the laugh there was slightly underwhelming.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, thank you, GW, for releasing an FAQ and being attentive to, the betterment of the game.
Yeah.
This is, remember guys, 8th edition is very, very new. And in fact, this is really new territory for Games Workshop and for us as a community. Because Games Workshop, previously to this and every previous edition, we would get an FAQ if we were lucky, maybe a year after a codex was released. And a few years after the rulebook was released, you'd get something maybe yearly if you were lucky. Now we're getting it every few months, so it's important to remember the good changes here.
Yeah.
However, initial impressions of what we're going to go over right now.
Yeah. For
the big FAQ 2. Well, let's go over the initial impressions, and let's do it on a case by case basis rather than a full. This is what I think. Yeah. Because it's better to be more specific.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of just having a knee-jerk reaction.
Yes.
And baying at the moon, you know what I mean? Exactly. Which I will be doing later, by the way. But yeah.
That's just a regular thing.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what we've got here is a wonderful Warhammer community post. And, genuinely, again, I reiterate, thank you for releasing this and staying... true to what you said. You said you'd learned from the first big FAQ, and now you said you were coming in September. It is September.
Yeah.
Everyone was itching for it, but we are in September. We're here. So look, one of the things they said in the article, I'm not going to read the whole thing. You can go check this out in the Warhammer community article. It says, today we're pulling the covers off the highly anticipated big FAQ 2. We wanted to wait until the dust had settled from the Nova Open tournament to properly analyse our findings. I think that's more than fair enough. I'd rather wait and you guys, get it right. And by you guys, I mean Games Workshop. You take time to digest what's going on and for you to make a better, more informed decision than for you to rush something out and then, not actually handle the issues. And our aim has been to refine the balance of the game while making sure that all the army lists and units you love are still functional and powerful. Well, thank you for that. That's exactly, I think, what everyone in the community wants to hear.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's the main things. So what they've done is they've got new match play rules, they've got new beta rules in this FAQ, and they've got general FAQs and errata. As of doing this, they still haven't updated the FAQs or errata for some of the codexes, namely Adeptus Mechanicus, Grey Knights, I think Custodes.
Custodes are in there too.
I will refresh this as we're doing this because this is literally only about an hour and a half old as of doing this Voxcast for you guys. But and I have a feeling that they're not updating those anyway. One of the things they do say in this article is that there are no points changes and that they're saving that for chapter approved. Am I disappointed with that? Sure, of course, because there are certain units which I would like to see adjusted for the game and for my own armies.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that, waiting to chapter approved, because if GW needs more time to get that right and just print that in chapter approved, great, cool, whatever works. So we know there are no points changes, guys. Mm-hmm. However, there are some changes. In some ways, not as significant as the first FAQ.
I think that a lot of people now, the reaction that I initially had and still am feeling a little bit is the first FAQ was actually massive.
It was, yeah. Rule of 3 was huge, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there was all these huge changes, and so then everyone was kind of holding out for this one, thinking, well, look, it seems like lots of people had a very clear idea about what needed to happen as far as points adjustments, different things that to do to stop certain army builds which are not conducive to the fluff of the game or the narrative of the game. And they just kind of haven't happened, really.
No.
So the initial reaction is one of disappointment. To be quite frank. Again, I reiterate what Lawrence was saying here. GW are now on top of it. They're here, they're listening to us, and they're going to be moving forward.
Yeah, they're reacting, which is brilliant.
Which is great. I guess though, I mean, whenever an FAQ comes out, I feel there is going to be this initial reaction.
And there's an anticipation.
Yeah, and especially now it's the 29th? 28th.
Yeah, 28th. Yeah.
So we've been waiting all month, and then it comes out, and you go, surely they'll deal with this. And then the rumour engine has been going insane at the moment.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they throw something in there that you go, that's left of field. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'm feeling we should go through the points.
Yeah, we'll go through the points.
Yeah, let's go through the points.
So I agree with what you're saying. I think it's partly not. It's no one's fault, but because everyone's so passionate, from the community point of view and Games Workshop's point of view, they're passionate about their own products, trust me. The anticipation of what we want to see, and we is a very, subjective term. I mean, it's relative to the bubble that you're in. Like, I, for one, don't want soup to be prevalent in the game. Because I think it's way too prevalent right now. That's my personal opinion. Now, I also have some friends that absolutely love it. And I mean, they love it. They love being able to pick whatever they want and use all of the toys from everything, every book that they can. Fair enough, that's the way you want to play the game, great. I can't, I'm not right because I feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm. I am, however.
Yeah. Well, I can say, though, having said that, in my personal experience, and especially through running battle reports for you guys and, the amazing community we've got here, is that it does appear to me, via comments and so forth, that the majority do not want to see it played that way.
Yeah.
Okay? I think that's a fair statement. I can make that opinion as a fair statement because obviously we're privileged to see lots of different people in the community and different ways of playing the game and so forth. So this is where the first point comes in. So they say soup is, in brackets, still off the menu. Because in the first FAQ, they restricted the keywords of certain armies that you could take. So you couldn't do a pure Imperium army, a pure Chaos army, etc., just consisting of that keyword. Now they've solidified this in the first big. I'll read this out because it will clarify it for you guys. In the first big FAQ, we introduced Battle Brothers to the game, shiny new and ready to be tested. Having seen this rule weather a number of major tournaments and having gathered loads of feedback from around the community, we're happy to confirm that 1, it works pretty well, 2, it's leading to more interesting lists, 3, you guys really like it. As such, Battle Brothers is now a fully fledged official rule for match play, legal as of right now. We'll also be printing it in this year's chapter approved, alongside a whole bunch of awesome stuff we can't tell you about just yet. Okay, my issue with this is that soup is not off the menu. It never was off the menu. It did go partway to fixing the problem. It did. But when you're in an environment where in 2,000 points, the recommended detachment limit is 3, I can still have 3 detachments of pretty much whatever I want and get all of the cross synergy I want, and it's really stopped nothing. And as a result, we're not getting actually the variety of lists, because when you look at the top 10 Nova lists, it was something like 6 of them that were Imperial soup. That for me, and by Imperial soup, it actually was almost the same build, which is a Katachan Astra Militarum detachment, battalion, or sometimes a brigade if they're feeling a bit spicy and want some extra command points.
Why not?
3 Blood Angel captains, Smash captains, which they have done some potential fixes with, which we'll go over, and the Castellan, which again, they have addressed some potential fixes here. This is not a doom and gloom statement, but what it is saying that army, the Imperial soup, is still very much valid.
Yeah.
And as of reading this on first glance, I don't see why it will not be valid. There is a significant change that will help mitigate its ongoing power, because it's going to be harder to get the command points now. But when you start with so many, I don't think it's going to matter. And that's why I don't think that this change is effective enough for me. in my opinion. So they then done the next point was balance review. So while Battle Brothers is the biggest change to the rules in this FAQ, we've also taken the chance to make a host of balance tweaks and adjustments to units. With Chapter Approved coming out in December, we're not making any points changes in this big FAQ. Instead, we're looking at stratagems and command points. So I can see the angle that Games Workshop have come from here. I'm okay waiting for Chapter Approved for points, of course. If you're going to fix some of those synergies, which are really but too powerful right now, as well as providing some errata and answers to your most commonly answered questions. So, stratagems. Games Workshop have acknowledged that when attending major competitive events, we noticed a few combos based around certain stratagems dominating, like the so-called Smash Captain, which is the Blood Angel Smash Captain, although to be fair, the Imperium could do it as well, Space Marines could do it as well, or Imperial Knights using the Order of Companions, which is the rerolling ones to hit. As such, we're upping the command cost of several stratagems in order to limit the number of times they can be used in a single game and to balance their use. Good idea, but the problem with that is when you're starting, the cheap Astra Militarum Battalion, or Brigade, as the case may be, is still so easy to plug in and get so many command points for that I don't think it's going to make an effective enough change for it, to be honest. You're still going to be able to get 2-3 turns of decent mileage out of the key strats that you want.
And with those lists, that's all you need.
That's all you need, because by that point, you're dead.
Yeah.
Your opponent's dead.
You're very dead. Hello,
unless you're playing each other, but at that point it became about who went first, more often than not, which also shouldn't be the case. So there we go. That's we'll go over those points changes for the command points momentarily. They've also then got their third point as being less death from above. This is a good rule change, good for the game. It does unfortunately in a way hurt some of the standalone factions, like if you wanted to play a pure Blood Angels army, because there are people that do want to just do a pure army.
Sanger.
Yeah,
He loves it.
I prefer to play a pure army myself.
Yeah.
So when looking in on tournaments, we noticed that the way the fly keyword interacts with charges was resulting in some cases where Assault Marines and other flying units could stand above or below their units to make 0-inch charges. So to give you examples, you guys an example, Smash Captain comes here on top of the Bastion, enemy unit is here, he is technically measuring from here to here, just over 9 inches away, but because he's got the fly keyword, he measures this way, okay, so horizontally instead of vertically, to make the charge. So he could basically make from here, if the unit was there, he could charge them in a 3-inch charge, which was not in the spirit of the rule. So actually this came up at no retreat, and I didn't play it that way. So for example, I could, with my interceptors, they didn't have the fly keyword, but they've got a rule which allows them to ignore the movement penalties. Terrain and figures. I could put interceptors up here, enemy unit here, and I could do the same thing. But I actually said to my opponents in the games I played, I won't play it that way because I didn't think it was in the spirit of the rule. Yeah. And luckily now they've confirmed that. So yeah. Fair enough.
Which is good.
It's good.
Yeah, I like that one. That's something I go, because that's a bit silly, really.
It is. Now, what they've done specifically in the errata on the main rules is they've said that the fly keyword allows you to ignore the movement obstacles and enemy models in the movement phase. Only. So when you charge now, you can't charge over anything. You can't charge over enemy infantry.
Yeah, so for screening.
Yeah, is actually even more effective. So your Smash Captain now, that is a nerf to him. Obviously it's a nerf to him, right? So there you go. That's interesting.
But a nerf to, they'd also get like Wraiths. From Wraiths.
It does hurt Wraiths.
It got Harlequins, because although they don't have the fly keyword, they had flip belt, and that's been errated now, so they can only use the flip belt in the movement phase. And it just...
Did it say that, did it? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, so what would be interesting is they haven't, as of doing this, they haven't updated the Grey Knights. So they might take that away from interceptors.
Yeah.
Because interceptors don't have the fly keyword. They've just got a special rule which they ignore. Maybe they'll keep it. But I mean, look, at 250 points, you're not seeing them in any super hardcore tournament anyway, so who cares?
Maybe they finally threw Grey Knight to bone.
Yeah, no.
It
would actually be funny if they do. They have updated the errata and it's only to just take that away from I'm laughing, but I am crying on the inside. So right,
it's interesting that because I feel it's a good way of dealing with Smash captains.
Yeah.
But the residual isn't great.
No.
In a way, because I mean we're just going to see people. I mean, says the guy who plays Tau, but like
it only makes you better.
But I look at stuff like that and I go,
Gun Castle even better.
Gun Castle is now even better.
Yep.
But the thing is, like, because I want what's best for the game, not my army, I look at stuff like that and just go, you know, we can't keep just having... I feel like this is a slight knee-jerk reaction towards...
the Smash Captain?
Towards the Smash Captain.
It probably is, you know. Which I can understand now. I mean, you know, respect to the GW guys, they've gone out, they've seen these Smash captains, you know, every captain, more captains than the Blood Angels chapter actually has.
Yeah.
Across the battlefields of Nova. To be fair, it was going on for months before that though, guys, you know, so, but I can understand, you know, the rules team can only get out to a certain amount of events and see this thing firsthand. Having said that, you know, they have reacted, they have now provided a fix for that.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition, I mean, I don't want to skip ahead, but they've also, upon Wings of Fire, they've upped that stratagem cost to 2 points now, which is a tough one, guys, because it makes standalone Blood Angels in an even tougher position than they were, because they are very command point hungry.
Yeah.
They now require even more command points. And it's now that much more of an incentive to take the Astra Militarum Battalion to go with them.
Yeah.
Because you just need a cheap battalion to get the 5 points or the brigade, yeah? And that's that's the thing which has not been fixed, which, in my opinion, needs a fix. It needs a fix. Unless you're happy with just seeing armies that don't look how you would expect them to look, you know, just being a real mix of soup, you know, in which case then that's fine.
Yeah. That's your bag.
If that's your bag, yeah, that's fine. So, you know.
So then rejoice.
Then rejoice, yeah. So you are still able to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And you should if you're playing competitively, in fact. So, right. The next thing is, because we'll go into the individual stratagems shortly. Next thing we've got is tactical reserves. So based on your feedback, we're making tactical reserves a lot simpler. That's always good. You know, we don't want the game to be overcomplicated.
No.
Basically now, you can't have anything from reserves on the first turn. Now this has got some subtle impacts and some very obvious impacts. So the obvious impact is they haven't taken it away. Beta Deep Strike is still a thing.
Yeah.
All right. So assault armies that really wanted to come in, you know, turn one, you know, hint like the Bloodletter Bomb or whatever, or just, you know, assault marines. I'm not that anyone takes them anymore. You know, without having to use a strat like upon Wings of Fire. Assault armies aren't in any better a position than they were before.
No, slightly worse.
They're even slightly worse. But the reverse of that is what people were doing, especially the elder players, is using Cloud Strike. And it's one of the tricks that I would have done at No Retreat with my Dreadnoughts to protect my anti-tank turn one. Ironically though, well not ironically, they just had great terrain, so I was actually able to hide the Dreadnoughts without having to rely on this, but I would have used the Teleportarian stratagem to deep strike my Dreadnoughts in my own deployment zone, right? Because I could still deep strike in my deployment zone turn one, so I could protect them and then shoot. Necron players were doing it with their destroyers, with, I think it's the Nephrek dynasty, forgive me if I'm wrong, but the dynasty which has the strat which allows them to deep strike units in. So they could protect themselves a little better. And then of course, Dark Reapers, we're going to Wave Serpents, that was the really tough thing, or they'd just deep strike the unit themselves and into their deployment zone turn one and then nuke you off the board. Now, none of them could do that anymore. So in that respect, I mean, that's kind of cool. Yeah. You know, like that's nice to anything where you just remove that interactivity, the lack of interactivity in the game is a good thing, because you don't ever really want your opponent to feel like there's just nothing they can do. Because one, that doesn't require any skill, and it's not fun for your opponent. It's like...
No.
It's like...
No, it is not.
Here's my great play. You can't actually hurt me because you can't see me or do anything, but I'll be able to come in and hurt you. Okay? Yeah. It doesn't mean anything. It's not fun, and it's not even clever. It's just bad. It doesn't work very well for either of the opponents. It's not a fun experience, either of the players. So they've changed that. Fair enough. Good. Does mean that you're pretty much going to see a lot of those units still deployed in reserve, but it does mean that you'll at least get a turn of moving or whatever to do something before they come in and nuke you anyway. So that's cool. So what the rule is, just to specifically say, finish off what the tactical reserves do, is they say, furthermore, in match play games, units that are not placed on the battlefield during deployment, in order to arrive on the battle mid-game as reinforcements, cannot arrive on the battlefield during the first round. So things like Space Marine Scouts still deploy fine, and they have now amended some of the stratagems and rules for things like Raven Guard, for Styges units, which we'll go over very shortly, to go into line with their new vision.
I know a couple of people who are just absolutely heartbroken right now.
Yeah. Finally, any unit that has not arrived on the battlefield by the end of the third battle round in a match play game counts as having been destroyed. So that's the same as it always was, but just to reinforce it, they've kept that as it is. Fail to prepare for failure is their next points. That's not all. If you end up getting the second turn in a game, so this is cool. I think it's a nod towards people getting second turn are generally at a disadvantage. Not always, and any, tournament player, before anyone says anything, any, good tournament player worth his salt will build to go second. He's not going to, have to go first, but generally speaking, going first is better. Yeah. And generally speaking, any of those players that have built to be resilient turn one, if they win the roll-off, they'll still opt to go first. There's a reason for that, because it's better.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just be clear about that. So what they've got here is a new stratagem. So if you know you're going second, you've got a stratagem called Prepared Positions. It's 2 CP. All right, so it's not super cheap, but it's not super expensive. You use this stratagem at the start of the first battle round before the first turn begins. Until the end of the first turn, all units from your army that are wholly within your deployment zone, other than Titanic units, so not you Imperial Knights, thank goodness, receive the benefit of cover even while they are not entirely on or in a terrain feature. A unit that's already receiving the benefit of cover gains no additional benefit from this stratagem. So if you are on a light board, okay, you don't have any ruins, or you lost a roll-off, they picked the cool side of the board, you are in no man's land, just sitting there waiting to be shot, all of a sudden I can give a +1 save. Now it becomes even more significant on things like Marines, which are still struggling as of this FAQ, because being able to say I've got a 2-up save is cool. It helps. It helps.
Huge.
And I'll go on your, not that anyone's taking dreadnoughts, but if you did, 2+ like me, 2+ save on your dreadnoughts is cool. Yeah. 2+ save on your rhinos. Your tanks.
It really helps tanks.
It helps tanks.
Really helps tanks.
That extra save does help. Yeah. It does help. Which is
cool.
If
you're getting las cannons, you've got 5-up saves.
Yeah, look, I'll take that.
Which is great.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably going to spend it. If you don't have the right board, you probably are going to spend it at this point.
Yeah.
You just are, if you're going second. So it's nice to have that reaction.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
Yep.
It gets a tick.
It gets a tick.
Yeah.
Restraint is a virtue. The final beta rule we're adding to the game is designed to put some tighter controls on generating command points mid-game. Thank you. The only thing you should be farming is the skulls of your enemy.
Very true.
So look, this is a massive step in the right direction, and this will go a long way towards preventing the longevity of said soup armies, which are dominating the game right now, but it doesn't prevent the issue at its core. And the issue at its core is that these armies start with a lot of command points anyway, because of the cheap guard. And they've upped the points for things like Knights Detachments anyway. So it's still quite easy to start with a lot of command points. So I still, let's go over what Tactical Restraint does. There are several warlord traits, relics and abilities that give you a chance to gain or refund command points when you or your opponents either use a stratagem or spend command points to use a stratagem. In match play games, each player can only gain or have refunded a total of 1 command point per battle round as the result of such rules, regardless of the source. Now that's per battle round, so that's my turn and your turn, people. Yeah, so if I've got my Labyrinthine Cunning on my Drugari Warlord, and you spend a 2 CP stratagem and I decide to roll 2 dice to try and get that point back, those points back, and I roll a 6 and I get 1, I then can't roll again for when you do another stratagem. Furthermore, if he went first in the battle round and then I've got the turn, the next turn in the battle round, I won't be able to use Labyrinthine Cunning on any of the stratagems that I use either. That does stop, to a massive degree, the amount of farming potential you get. It does. You can only get 1 point back, guys, or Labyrinthine Cunning still could get 2 points off of that stratagem if you roll it, but the minute you've earned anything, that's it. They do go on to clarify, this does not apply to the Moment Shackle or the Sevenfold Chant abilities or to the player of the Twilight Warlord trait. In these cases, the ability/Warlord trait can refund or gain the player more than 1 command point if the stratagem used costs 2 or more command points to use. So like I'm saying with Labyrinthine Cunning. But once any command points have been gained as a result of the rule, neither it nor any similar rule, so no Kurov's Aquila, Veritas Vitae shenanigans going on here, can be used to gain any more command points until the next battle round. Also note that this does not apply to command points that are gained or refunded as specifically instructed on stratagems, for example, Feeder Tendrils, Agents of Vect, etc. Okay, so Tactical Restraint for me, well done, Games Workshop. You've ticked that box. You have stopped farming. You have stopped farming.
Yeah.
To an extent.
To a degree.
But what you haven't stopped, and I need to be really clear about this, is the cross-stratagem synergy that you're allowing with multiple detachments across multiple different books. So I can still take my Astra Militarum. No one cared about the Astra Militarum stratagems anyway, unless you're playing pure Astra Militarum Vengeance for Cadia and all that. What you cared about was the amount of points and cheap command points you got for it, the cheap chaff that you have now for screening, and remarkably effective firepower, especially in comparison with your average Marines. I just made an example yesterday. You get 5 cultists, if you're talking Chaos, or 5 guardsmen for 1 strike Marine. Maths ain't working there. So, it's not fair mathematically. So we're getting all of this cheap chaff. We're getting a whole bunch of command points to fuel my Smash Captains and my Knight. I just start the game with it. Now, it is less than it was before, which is good. And you might see now a slight shift. Maybe you won't see as many of the Smash Captains, especially now that you can't deliver them as effectively. But you'd see more Guard Brigades, and you'd probably see more Knights. And you'd go for the 6 points detachments for the Knights.
Yeah.
And you're still starting at that point, with potential 18 command points, guys. You'll spend a couple on some relics.
Yeah. And that's the thing, though. If you start with 18, you can, in the game went on for 7 turns, you should still get, 25 command points?
Well, you'll only get 1 back a turn.
Yeah, so if it went for the full 7.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
So
you'll spend a couple. Yeah, you'll spend a couple on your relics because people want to take Call's Wrath and all that jazz. And the command points have gone up for him now. Okay?
Yeah.
So, maybe it should be at this point that we talk about
stratagems.
The cost has gone up on some of these stratagems. All right? So, let me pull the sacred documents up.
Oh, yes.
So Psychic Focus, by the way, has just been solidified. It's the same as it is Battle Brothers, as we've already covered. Targeting characters remains the same. Tactical reserves we've now covered. You can only strike into your own deployment zone. However, let's now go over the changes that they've made to some of these units and armies around the new rules. Okay, so first things first, we've got Codex Space Marines, Strike from the Shadows. So specifically, we're talking Raven Guard. So they pretty much hit every army that could start 9 inches away through the cheeky use of a strat. All right. So what it does is use this stratagem when you set up a Raven Guard infantry unit. So they've reworded this now. This is an errata. Unit from your army during deployment at the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn begins, you can move that unit up to 9 inches. It cannot end this move within 9 inches of any enemy models. If both players have units that can move before the first turn begins, the player who is taking the first turn moves their units first. What does this mean? It means that your aggressors are starting in your deployment zone and they can move 9 inches.
That's it.
That's it.
Rest in peace, Electro Priests.
Yep, because they've done the exact same thing with the clandestine infiltration on the Styges. And they've done the exact same thing on the Alpha Legion forward operatives. And they've done a slight change to Codex Craft Worlds and the way that Rangers now appear. The Rangers appear at the end of any of your movement phases. This unit can emerge from the webway. Set this unit up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from any enemy models, which means by definition, as per the Tactical Reserves new rule, they can't appear until turn 2 if they are deploying in ambush like that.
Yeah. Which is
fine, but really stops their screening potential that they had before. So, look, fair enough. GW have really cracked down on, they want to take away, to as much as is feasibly possible, they want to take away any of that first turn strike from the game. They want to take it away from shooting, people hiding and then coming and shooting. They want to take it away from charging. Now, there are still some ways to do it. Upon Wings of Fire still works. Gate of Infinity still works. Interceptors still have their ability. But it's now far fewer than it was. They've also removed the ability of Genestealer Occult units to do it as well.
Yeah.
And they've said, don't worry.
There was this caveat, wasn't there?
We have taken this into account to the Genestealer Occult Codex, which is currently in development. But it's, they'd accepted them. They made them exempt from the Beta Deep Strike in the first FAQ. Now,
no longer
giveth with one hand, they taketh with the other.
Well, it must be to do with the Codex, though.
Of course, yeah.
It must be. There must be something in there which changes that up.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole functionality of that army. I don't see how it works if you completely nerf that.
Well, it's funny because you talk about the functionality of an army and Grey Knights, I pay for teleports across the board.
It's exactly the same thing. It's interesting.
My codex is already released, Bo.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
So GW, if you're listening, have a think about that in chapter approved.
Yeah. But it just
please.
It just seems more and more difficult now to play combat armies.
Yeah.
That's
the bottom line.
It's
still a very powerful mechanic when used properly in the game. Arguably the most powerful. Combat, wrapping traps, consolidating to shut things down. These are some of the most powerful mechanics used by the best players. But it is becoming harder and harder to deliver those units.
I think that's my issue.
Yeah.
And then because of soup and stuff, like the armies that need them, Grey Knights, etc., then as a standalone force, they just keep getting it's just peg down a peg, down a peg, down a peg, down a peg. And it's frustrating to see.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Do you know what I mean? I don't.
I was certainly hoping that we would. It's not what I actually expected from the Beta Deep Strike. I had a feeling they might keep it. I get where they were coming from with it, but I had a hope that they would maybe exempt some of the, some of the armies which are paying the points for it for certain, like Grey Knights. But some of the,
at the very least, some units.
But actually they've really hammered it in now, and they've just basically taken it from everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. The great tacticians will play around it.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll see what we can come up with. So right, we've got prepared positions we've already spoken about. So that's the whole army counting as being in cover if you're spending 2 CP. Tactical restraint we've now covered. Right, some interim balance review. So this is where we'll talk about the command point increases, which they've very kindly put on a 1 page in the big FAQ too.
Oh, it's nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what we've got here is one interesting change. It's not interesting, it's just I wasn't sure that they addressed that in this FAQ, but they've changed Warp Surge. They said the Warp Surge stratagem appears to be too effective, enabling a potentially invulnerable save of 2+. Yes, that's correct. As a result, we are making a small change to this stratagem. The change appears in the Codex Chaos Demons errata, but is shown here for convenience. I love everything about what you do, Games Workshop. Thank you. Codex Chaos Demons, page 126, Warp Surge. Change the rules text of this stratagem to read: use this stratagem at the start of any phase. Select a unit of demons from your army until the end of the phase. Here's the kicker, folks. You cannot re-roll saving throws for this unit, but its invulnerable save is improved by 1. But it's taken away the re-roll potential, which is huge. So and by the way, it's to a maximum of 4+ as well in brackets now. So
cool.
It's still good. It will give you some resilience, but you're not going to get the really ganky saves on big screens that you were before, looking at things like horrors and so forth.
Yeah.
So okay, cool, that's done. Right, Codex Blood Angels. Upon Wings of Fire, change the command point cost of this stratagem to 2 CP. Tough, guys, really tough. Because I don't look at it from the perspective of the soup. I look at it from the perspective of being the Blood Angel player. Yeah. 2 CP is not steep. It's not steep, guys, but yes, it's not 1 CP, is it?
No, and you can't farm it back.
Can't farm it back.
No.
So, Imperial Knights, Oathbreaker Guidance System, they've upped that to 3 CP. Fair. Because sniping characters is nasty.
Yeah. Real
nasty. Imperial Knights, Order of Companions, so that's the reroll 1s. Hello, Calls Wrath. We saw you everywhere. That's now 3 CP too.
Cool.
Okay, good. Fair enough. Although I would argue that the 2 CP was actually alright. You needed to fix the farming aspect, which they have now, but you needed to fix the amount of points that they can start with. Because the whole point of the elite armies are that they've got these big, expensive stratagems, and they are very powerful, but the idea is that they don't have that many command points to start with.
Yeah.
That's the balancer. That is the balancer, right? If you're starting with 18+ command points, you don't really care.
No.
I don't care.
Yeah, I go cool.
Yeah.
I'll spend 3 command points there.
I'd go cool. Calls Wrath.
No, I saw it. It's good.
I'm still doing it for the 2-3 turns I need.
Yeah.
Everything I want's dead in 3 turns anyway. So, but okay, cool. Then we've got our Darkest Hour, an incredibly powerful stratagem for 2 CP to get back up. On a 4+, mind you, but having a knight come back up on D3 wounds, and then he's a Mechanicus knight, and then you spend a CP for him to act on his top profile. Exceptionally demoralising for your opponents, exceptionally powerful. They have upped that to 3 CP. I support that life choice. Good. Then Agents of Vex, they've made it 4 CP. Fair. Okay.
Especially now that you could just Agents of Vex that stratagem you use at the start, the new one.
Oh yeah, I'm going to start. It's all right. I'm starting in turn 2. However, Agents of Vex you can't do on strats pre-game, and that still counts as pre-game. So you can't Vex that.
Is it pre-game once you know who's going first? Yeah. Okay,
it says the stratagem cannot be used if it also says the stratagem can't be used if there are no Cabal of the Black Heart units from your army on the battlefield. That's a particularly nice thing because what it's also saying there, because it's listen to the words on the battlefield. If your Black Heart units die, if you kill the Drukhari players, and it's not the Drukhari player, is it? It's the Eldari player who has a Drukhari detachment of Blackheart. If you destroy his units, then he can't perform Agents of Vex.
Which is nice.
So it does mean you need to destroy 3 Blackheart Ravagers, which now incidentally can't deep strike into their deployment zone turn 1. So we have you go over the FAQ, you read it again, and you start to see there are some powerful combinations which have been toned down.
Yeah,
for sure. Games Workshop have made some really good changes here. I guess we're both hoping for more, and I want to give the feedback to Games Workshop to say, guys, you haven't really fixed the soup issue.
No.
In my personal opinion, and I think you should go a little further. I would love to see you go a little further. And there's going to be plenty of people I think which would disagree with me, I'm sure, because they might really like soup. But I don't think soup is great for the game overall, because it doesn't encourage. It doesn't actually encourage you to buy as many different units from any standalone book. So even from a purchasing perspective, I think there's this sort of false mythos where people believe, Games Workshop want all of the soup, so that people buy lots of different things. But it's kind of like a false economy, in my opinion, because they don't buy lots of different things. They just buy the best thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's only one of them.
And that means that they're not buying the other units in their book, which just sit on the shelf. So even if you look at it from a purchasing money perspective, people aren't spending more, they're just buying the best things available to them in the rules that are allowed. So that's a false economy if you think of it that way. Look, there are some really great changes here, and that is the big FAQ too, by the way.
Yeah. There
are some other significant changes which I've kind of already covered with the fly keyword in the movement. There's another massive change as well in the rulebook. Can you do the main rulebook errata? Can you do a heroic intervention even if your opponent doesn't declare a charge? Yes, you can.
Yeah, which is quite cool.
Hello, Space Wolves.
Yeah.
With their 6-inch heroic intervention.
That's what I like.
Huge.
That's what I like.
Being able to perform it without your opponent declaring a charge gives you that much more board control and creates more pressure for your opponent. If your opponent's suddenly 3 inches away from a character or whatever, and they deliberately didn't want to declare a charge that turn because they knew that you were going to own them in the fight phase, you can just stroll in there anyway.
Yeah.
What's up?
Which makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool. Why are we going to stand there?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So they also clarify that you can't do a heroic intervention in your own turn, which is fair enough.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a bit much, isn't it?
No, you do it in your opponent's turn.
Yeah. Everyone, all Space Wolves they all kind of went, well, I kept reading it. Okay, cool, yeah. That's all that.
So I'm just going to briefly look through here to see if there's anything else which there are lots of other little changes here. We wanted to cover the main ones for you. Things like re-rolling damage roll of a 1. What if it's a D3 damage roll? Do you re-roll the 1 or just the 1 and 2 because it counts as 1? You re-roll the 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. For the purposes of strategic discipline, match play rule, any. There's another one as well. These are 2 pretty big ones, so I'm going to clarify it for you. One I was really surprised about, to be honest. Let's cover this one first. So, for the purposes of the strategic discipline match play rule, are stratagems with identical names that appear in different codexes, for example, Veterans of the Long War, Death Guard get it, Thousand Suns get it, Chaos Space Marines get it. Do they count as being the same stratagem? Yes, this means that in match play games, such stratagems can only be used once per phase regardless of their source. For example, if you use the Veterans of the Long War stratagem from Codex Chaos Space Marines, you cannot, in the same phase, also use the Veterans of the Long War stratagem from either Codex Death Guard or Codex Thousand Suns. But then, at this point, they contradict themselves. Because, at the very end, in organised events, they say, are the Demon Prince datasheet from Codex Chaos Space Marines, the Demon Prince of Nurgle datasheet from Codex Death Guard, Demon Prince of Tzeentch datasheet from Codex Thousand Suns all considered different datasheets for the purposes of organised events? Yes. So the stratagems are the same, but the datasheets, which are obviously the same, aren't. So what does this mean? Is it a terrible thing? No, but it does mean you can rock 6 princes.
No, you could rock more than that.
Right, yeah, but I mean, no one was really rocking more. Well, actually, to be fair,
you could. So
when Team England was at the LGT, to be fair, yeah. Okay.
You could rock more. I think in theory, then you could rock 12.
Yeah, in theory.
12. That's a lot. And they clarified squadrons as well. I mean, that was already sort of clarified, but there is no contention around that anymore. If you can have units of up to 3, for example, of basilisks, you can have 3 units. That would be 9 basilisks in total. So that's a way to negate the rule of 3.
Yep.
Which I've spoken about my thoughts about that. I don't need to go over it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's one of those things where I feel that. There's definitely been some things that have been toned down.
Yeah.
There's been some steps in the right direction. I feel that the elephant in the room, though, is soup. And they're even saying in the Warhammer community, the thing that they posted, it even says soup is still
off the menu, but it's not.
And it hasn't been.
No.
So it's almost like they're being very hesitant around it.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to limit it rather than stop it. If you don't want it in the game, and I mean, I've played guys from the rules team at events and stuff like that, and they don't run armies like that.
No.
They don't think that's how the game would be played. I mean, maybe I'm putting words in their mouth, but it doesn't appear.
Yeah. It doesn't appear that way.
It doesn't appear that
they certainly don't run that in a White Dwarf Battle Report.
Exactly.
Do they?
So then, if they don't want it, I don't understand why they don't just stop it. And maybe it's coming in chapter approved. Maybe they're warming us up.
Well, this is why I felt that I wanted to be very specific in my feedback with this one, because on the community post alone, it says soup is still off the menu, and I don't know if that's because they think it is.
Yeah.
You know, I can't help but because I don't know. You know, maybe they think it is fixed. But I can tell you that, you know, speaking to the rest of the crew and friends that we've been talking about the FAQ, we don't feel that that's fixed now. We still don't feel it's fixed. No. So if there's anyone from GW, not that there would be, but if there was, watching this, I would say, could you please review it again? You know, my feedback would be, because these are still beta, guys, you know. Yeah. So no one needs to raise their arms and get their pikes out and, you know.
And burn them all.
Yeah. You know, that's not constructive.
No.
What Games Workshop have been absolutely amazing at doing is saying, we want the feedback. These are the changes we feel would work. Thank you. They provided them to us, actually in a timely manner, guys. I'm going to say it. Like, the work they've done in 8th edition is incredible. It's the best edition that we've played. It is. There are problems that are emerging now, and the biggest problem for me is soup. I would love to see them to do something to it, because I'm not discouraged enough by these changes to not run the same Imperial soup army I was running before. I'm not. I might drop the Smash Captains now.
Maybe. But they're still quite good.
They're still quite good.
they're still really good.
Yeah, I might drop them now. I might. But I mean, if anything, it just encourages your opponent to have more of the chaff screen, which will mean a cheap Astra Militarum detachment, because the captains can't fly over them now in the charge phase. It's still kind of encouraging the same build, you know. I'd be happy to just drop the Smash Captains and just go more Knights and Guard. You know, I'd be happy with that. Mm-hmm. You know, I can fuel those Knights up with those Guard command points. I really can. To last the amount of turns that I need. You know, it's tough. It's real tough. So yeah, I mean, soup's not fixed. No, it's not.
One thing we should mention as well is they've changed how rotating iron shields would work.
The targeting rules?
Yeah, the targeting rules have been changed.
So have they changed something specifically in the Knights, rotate iron shields?
Well, no, but they've changed how targeting your weapons work. So it would change the Yeah,
because there was something that came out at Nova, which
but it's actually, if you look at how it's broken down,
it would actually be correct. So it would mean that things like lightning reflexes wouldn't be as good.
No, because so if I've got a Riptide, for example, and they've got smart missile systems and a heavy burst cannon, so I'd go, cool, I'm shooting at this unit and this unit. So, you know, your Shining Spears and your Fire Prism. I'm shooting at them. Are you going to activate lightning fast reflexes? And if so, who?
Yeah.
So they'd have to choose, and then I could declare what weapon I would shoot at what target.
Yeah.
Whereas now, when you choose your target, you must also declare at the same time
your weapons.
what your weapons are shooting at. Yeah. So it kind of gives that
So it makes the lightning reflexes good again, because obviously you're saving.
And it would be the same as like Brute Iron Shields,
which is fine. I mean, the person spending command points on it, like, you know.
Yeah, and that's how it was intended to work.
Yeah.
My eyes lit up because that gets me all the time. But then they've stopped it, and although a part of me is upset about it, I realise that that's how it was designed to be played.
Yes.
So and there's ways around it. You just got to play a little more tactically, perhaps.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, it overall. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we've missed.
There probably is.
The targeting, yeah. I mean, right. Individual errata wise, obviously they have prepared some individual erratas.
Have they updated yours yet?
All right. Well, we'll look now live on camera to see if just it will make me laugh if it's just and interceptors can't ignore.
That'd be funny.
It would. I would actually laugh, but I mean, all right, we're looking live now.
It's happening live, people. Here it is.
Right, Death Guard updated, Drakari updated, Knights, Demons, no, Mechanicus still aren't updated, so I'm assuming Grey Knights aren't, Chaos aren't updated, Thousand Suns aren't.
Right, well,
Custodies aren't.
So this might mean
Grey Knights aren't. So I don't think they're going to at this stage. You'll be chapter approved if anything.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Look at you. You got your little buff to your army.
Oh, so my interceptors now can still charge and ignore people.
Yeah, there you go. Grey Knights OP.
Yeah, watch me dominate every single tournament. This is not the change I was hoping for, especially going to Heat 3. Booked in for Games Workshop, because I'm assuming, and I don't know this, guys, but I'm assuming that the chapter approved will of course come out after it, or it will be the ultimate insult. They'll release the chapter approved, they improve Grey Knights massively, but they'll say that chapter approved is not in play at Heat 3.
Yeah. Which
I would genuinely find funny, but it's I jest, but I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, it's funny, but not really.
So I mean, this is not about Grey Knights. It's about soup. It's about what can people bring to compete with that, other than bring more soup. At the moment, my initial reaction is it's the same as it always was. Mm-hmm. In fact, Eldar in general will remain very powerful.
Yeah.
They have been nerfed a bit. With this, because they can't strike their Reapers in and hide them anymore, and until turn 2, and they can't strike their Ravagers in, which until turn 2, which is a whole turn of firepower they're not getting. I mean, that is good. I think that's a good change, because it is a really powerful. It was really tough before, they got all of the benefits and you got nothing in return. No. You just couldn't shoot them.
No, nothing.
And they would still get the efficiency out of their unit, from their turn 1, which is a tough break.
Yeah, they just need, Elder just, they're just too cheap as well. And
some of them,
yeah.
Shining Spears need to go up.
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, even, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think you can't keep putting unit points up, buddy of mine, Malik, he said you can't keep putting points up on units. You need to sort of address the units that are bad and make them better. Yeah. I actually agree with him. You can't just keep saying, oh well, Elder are too cheap or whatever, because actually Elder across the board now aren't too cheap. It's only a few units which are still grossly effective. I think actually that with the points increase of Dark Reapers in the last FAQ, and now this change that they can't come on until turn 1, until turn 2, if you want to protect them, I think that's actually a significant,
definitely helps
hit to them.
Definitely helps.
Shining Spears are probably still a bit too cheap, and I think like what Malik was saying is I think it's a combination of both. I think some points need adjusting there, and some points need adjusting elsewhere as well. But again, Shining Spears. Still going to be good.
Yeah.
You're still going to see. They'll just start on the boards and hide, and you can put Quicken on them, or if you've got.
Is that you casting spells? Is that?
Yeah, it's me casting spells. You put Quicken on them, or if they're Yanari, you've got Word of the Phoenix. You've got a whole bunch of different.
Sort of
they're still. So Elder is still going to be really good, which is good because I love them and they should have a place in the game. I don't want them to be bad, but Imperial Soup is still going to be better.
Yeah.
this Imperial Soup had overtaken Eldar, in my opinion. It was close run thing. I'm sure there's some people that would argue either way, but I don't see an army better than Imperial Soup, and Chaos Soup will still very much be a thing also. And Space Marines in general, including Chaos Space Marines of all the variant types, are still not as points efficient as cultists or guardsmen or scouts.
Oh, yeah.
And until we get that addressed, which, look, GW have said the points changes are coming in the big FAQs. It doesn't mean they're not coming, just because they're not in here doesn't mean they're not coming. But we will have to wait until chapter approved to see a difference in the meta in that regard.
100%.
Yeah.
Right, so we've talked a lot about the what we think the problem is, I guess.
Yep.
Problem is a strong word, but I'm going to use it, problem. But what's the solution?
Yeah.
So I think we all are kind of in agreement as a team on this. We've spoken about it a lot. Chef has definitely mentioned it in one of his many rants.
Yeah, we just spoke to Chef.
Yeah, he's getting lots of we're getting lots of messages from him. Trust me, he wishes he could be here.
Yes.
But look, the thing that I think this is how you fix it.
Yeah.
Your warlord determines where you can use your stratagems from.
Yep.
Which codex you can use it from.
Yep.
And you're
done.
That's it. That's it. But also, I'd even go a step further.
Yeah.
So if you want to have allies, that's fine. But your warlord is the only. You can only generate command points from the same army that your warlord is the warlord of. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Right. So that really. You get really in depth there.
So meaning that if you have a battalion of, Imperial Guard, right?
Yeah.
So this would stop this completely.
Yeah.
And your warlord is there.
Yeah.
Great, you'll get your 8 command points.
Yeah.
But you can only use stratagems from the Astra Militarum Codex.
Yeah.
And then if you have allies of, say, a Knight's detachment, they do not generate any command points at all for you.
Yeah, and that's super harsh, but
and you cannot use any stratagems from their codex.
Yep. Because they don't get access to them because the warlord isn't from a Astra Militarum detachment.
Exactly. If it's a soup starts,
but
you can still have knights which are incredibly powerful.
Yeah, but they wouldn't get access to the relics.
Exactly.
They could just spend a command point to get access to the relics. They could just spend a command point to still make them characters with the baronial court. Because they wouldn't get access to stratagems, but what you would get is the person go, that's fine, I was only ever using the Astra Militarum detachment for command points anyway, and I'll just make the Imperial Knights detachment the one with my warlord, so I get all of their stratagems, but with your system, they wouldn't gain 5 CP from that Astra Militarum detachment.
They'd only have 6, or depending on how many go, it may even be 3.
And look, I kind of like that, because guess what, guys? The warlords, if you're going to talk about a unified fighting force, the warlords would be the one that determines everything. Why are all of the other armies, which aren't actually what he's technically, what aren't part of his normal battle plan, why are they suddenly getting all of their special relics and stuff too? It doesn't make any sense. Now, what you could do if you want to tone it down a bit, because that is obviously the really extreme way of
I'm an extreme guy.
Yeah. What you could do, Games Workshop, is you could say, why not have the warlord determines the access to the stratagems you get, but you allow people to have generated command points for the stratagems. So in this particular example, it would mean that the Astra Militarum battalion does still give you those command points, but it would also mean that you couldn't take Kurov's Aquila on them. To be fair, you've helped to really mitigate that anyway. Because of the way that you've now handled the farming, the more abusive farming, the stacking of different things. So that was really good. But I mean, if it were me, I would go with your. Yeah. I think it forces in match play you to make far more interesting decisions, because the big argument is that, if you take away that stuff and you just want to run single faction armies, that's going to be really boring. No, not trying to make it boring, but I would venture that you would see a lot more interesting unit choices from said single factions, because you're going to start seeing units that are never used currently. Because why would someone take one unit, like a heavy support choice, when they could just take why would someone take the Grey Knight's Venerable Dreadnought at 185 points with a twin las cannon and missile launcher, when I could just ally in currently and get command points for it if I take 3 of them, right? Helverin with 2 of the big autocannons, which have a flat damage of 3, a higher rate of fire. I've got 12 wounds as opposed to 8, and I've got an invulnerable save, and I've got a wealth of stratagems which help me against air targets. Plus, I can ignore wounds on a 6 as well, depending on what house I pick, just like a Venerable Dreadnought can. The Helverin's better in almost every single way. The only thing he doesn't get is Astral Aim or a 12-inch Smite, which only does 1 damage against anything in the game other than damage 3. But the Helverin's cheaper on top of it.
Yeah. He's 174. Yeah.
So, there's a maths disparity here which is not working. Yeah. And now, if I all of a sudden am being forced to stay within certain factions, then what will happen is I will be forced to make more interesting choices rather than the same choices of being able to cherry pick, whatever I want from the game. Now, obviously, then it would emerge that you would start cherry picking from within your own book. There's always going to be disparity there. But it's a lot easier to balance a book internally than it is across an entire system.
But also, like, cherry picking from in a book is... I don't think that's the same sort of...
It's not the same as just cherry picking from whatever you want.
From whatever you want.
It just must be, from Games Workshop's perspective, it must be a nightmare to try and balance across every single combination of books.
Yeah, it must be...
So take it away.
Yeah. Make your job easier.
Make your job easier.
Sleep better. Relax.
We shouldn't have all of the toys in matched play. We've got open play and narrative play to do what we want.
Yeah.
But in match play, if you're talking about getting the semblance of balance in the game, you're going to find it a lot easier to balance your book internally than having to balance the combinations that it can have with all of this cross-stratagem abuse across multiple books and multiple detachments. That's a real tough one. Yeah. So at least we've offered, it's always important, guys, as a community, it's all well and good to say, well, I don't like this, it doesn't work, or I want this to be different, but offer a solution. Yeah. Why does it need to be different, and how would you change it?
Yeah.
Because then we've got some constructive feedback. Because Games Workshop right now are amazing. They're actually taking on board feedback.
Yeah, and they want to move forward. They want to make it a game that everyone enjoys. Yeah.
And everyone I've met there is like a mega boss. They are as passionate about the hobby as you are.
Yeah.
As I am.
Believe
as
that.
Bonus. Yeah. They are,
Some of them more passionate than me, and I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in particular, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, guys, let's wrap this up. Let's have a little outro chat, shall we?
All right, let's do it.
So that's it, guys.
Yeah, I'm not really sure there's much more we can add. The thing is, we will obviously read over this about 10 more times, and new stuff will come to light, and I'm sure everyone else is already saying, what about this? We started filming this pretty much as soon as we read it. So leave comments below. We'll be on this one. We'll be replying to you, talking about what your feelings are, what our feelings are, and just remember as well, we can always write into the rules team. They do seem to be listening. They are trying to actively go out into the community, like they say. We went to Nova, we saw some stuff, we realised this needed addressing. And the more that we...
they didn't get my Wave Serpent one though.
They didn't. That upset...
I sent it in to you.
Yeah, that's the one I was hoping for. But
so it's to do with the reduced damage. Is it from all of the whole weapon or per shot?
Yeah, the whole weapon.
Rules as written, it's the whole weapon. It is actually the whole weapon as rules as written.
Yeah,
I know that's going to stir up a hornet's nest.
Yeah,
but listen, that's what an FAQ's for. I don't care which it is. I just want to know which it is.
Yeah, same here.
Because and before anyone says anything, oh no, Lawrence, you're wrong. It's per shot. Yes, the ITC plays it that way, but the GW own Heat 3, finals, at the last finals, played it the other way. They played it as that, so if you've got your burst cannon, 10 shots hit and wound, say, for example, and they do 2 damage each, and say I fail all of my saves, so you do 20 damage, normally you'd halve that to 10, which is the common interpretation of it, but actually, GW played it, their own finals, that it would be reduced to 19.
Yeah.
You'd only lose 1 damage from one of the shots of the overall weapon.
It's huge.
It's huge. It's a huge difference.
It's massive.
Needs an FAQ.
Yeah.
Needs an FAQ.
That's a big one.
So, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully this has helped clarify the FAQ. I'm sure you've probably read it already. Maybe you're just curious about what we think. I don't know why, but now you know.
Yeah.
I love soup, but that's the eating, or perhaps the drinking of it, not the playing of it.
It's a combination of both.
Yeah, I don't think allies should be taken away. That's not what I want. I think that the problem is that you're deliberately nullifying the weakness of these more elite armies, like knights, like custodies, by taking the cheap.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
And that defeats having that. They don't become elite armies, and they become all-powerful armies, which are unstoppable. Yeah. Really.
I think allies should be a thing. Some of them are very fluffy, but I don't think it should be your go-to. Right now, it's the go-to because I can cherry-pick the best things to make the most powerful combination, which means that you're going to get the same list again and again. Right, folks, it's been a pleasure. This has been The Spider and the Bone. Let us know what you think. Continue this discussion down here.
Yes.
We'll see you soon.